As musician or producer, it's pretty rare that we stumble upon a virtual instrument that can actually help spark creativity to help us write new music. Maybe you're trying to write new material and you're stuck with writer's block, or you're stuck with the same song and you can never actually finish it and put it out there. Today's video is part 1 of a series of video called Creativity Unleashed with Heavyocity, where I'll be doing a production deep dive to show you how I produced a track focusing on one virtual instrument at a time. Whether you're working on pop, rock, electro, ambient music, or even movie scores, the goal here is really to inspire you with new ideas and get the creative juices flowing right away. In today's video, I'll be focusing on Damage Guitars, a killer virtual instrument that packs a ton of great bass and guitar loops. So everything you're hearing in this track was made with Heavyocity's virtual instruments, and this is unmixed. So there is no processing in my DAW whatsoever other than a general tone shaping EQ on my 2-bus and a limiter. So what sparked the whole thing with this song was the first riff that I heard with the heavy riff combo 1 here in Damage Guitars. Let's first listen to it. So this is the lo-fi version, meaning there's a filter applied to it, and also I'm using the micro effects filter effect to filter the whole bus just for the intro section. So let's listen only to the Damage guitar intro riff. So you can hear there's already a little bit of delay, and there's additional distortion with Punish here, which is the famous distortion engine by Heavyocity, which also adds a bit of compression to the signal. So there's only one additional layer added to that lo-fi guitar at the beginning, and it's from Oblivion, and the patch is Punch and Run from the Oblivion designer. So let's listen to it in solo. Oblivion and the guitars. And there's also two percussive elements right there. The first one is DM307. So let's listen to how it sounds like. Again, it's heavily filtered. And finally, I'm adding on the second half of that Damage 2 percussion sampler. So it's simply a loop added on top. Let's listen to it in solo as well. So there's a lot of cool panning going on to add a little bit of space and dimension. And if we're stacking those two, the DM307 and Damage 2, let's listen to it together. To create more impact in the next section of the song, I'm routing all these four virtual instruments in the intro bus, and I'm using micro effects filter on top of that. So this filter is working dynamically and is also creating movement. So let's listen to it without the micro effects filter. Now with the filter. So you can really see that in this first section of the song, the micro effects filter really creates this slingshot effect. So when the heavy riff comes in, there's even more impact. So with Damage Guitars, it's so easy to get going writing parts because on the keyboard layout, you have a matching bass riff. So you have the guitar riff right there, and then the matching bass riff right here. So you can simply load that same instrument on another track and have independent control over the two instruments. And that's exactly what I did here. So you can see the Damage bass track right there on the right, and you have the Damage Guitars right here at the bottom. So you can hear both instruments playing at the same time. And by loading each in a different instance, you have full control over the presets, especially when you talk about distortion, over filter, and all this stuff. If you're using Damage loops for loops like this, make sure to go in the space tab and disable the delay here, because this comes as a preset with your riffs. And if you want to have the maximum amount of punch, you want to make sure this is dry and there's no delay or reverb in such parts. So at that specific tempo, I could have picked a bunch of other alternatives to that riff. And let me show you quickly how it would sound like if I use a different riff for that intro part. So first we activate here, and then let's listen to different riffs. So if you look at the keyboard layout here, every single key is going to be a sick riff track in stereo with a matching bass riff with the orange layout right there. And you have a bunch of presets. So here you have guitar and bass combo. We're only at heavy riff combo 1, but you have 2, 3, 4, and then you have a bunch of other ones right there. So if you want to change the tonality, then you can simply click here on the red keyboard layout to change the actual notes from that riff. But if you just want to stick with where we are at right now, we just keep it like that. And here in the green or turquoise layout here, it's going to be more like sound effects that you can add on top. Right now it's muted, we're not using it. So in the next section on verse 1, we have two instances of damaged guitars. First one is running the guitar riff, the second one is running the matching bass riff, and here finally you have damaged drum kit. Let's listen to it. To work on a hook for the chorus, we're slowing down the drums and we're adding two different instruments here. The first one, which is Oblivion Designer, the preset is called Ice to Meet You, so it sounds pretty cool. It's a lead type of sound. On top of that, I'm adding ASCEND. So to make sure ASCEND is able to pierce through this wall of sound, I'm using the Punish distortion and compression plugin right here. So you can see it's heavily compressed, saturated, and there's a small amount of EQing as well. And you can see here the Punish distortion is at maybe 30%. If you listen to this piano line in solo with the effects, it sounds a bit overly processed, but in the context of a mix, it's really the key to make it stick out and make sure that it cuts through this wall of sound. So let's listen to it in solo. With the full band. So in this whole session, the processing has been done exclusively inside the Kontakt instances. So you hear only distortion, filters, and here you have a bit of delay, reverb. So this really helps save DSP because you're not using stuff outside with buses. Obviously, if you would be working on a full mix, you want more flexibility. You want the option to sidechain stuff to create even more space, more impact. So this is basically just a simple rough mix. So after the chorus, we land on this more basic part, which is only damaged guitars using the bass line, and again, damaged drum kit. So with faster drums, we're keeping the energy high while bringing the dynamic level a bit lower to create contrast between this more epic chorus and the part following that. So this is a very simple demo that was made in a matter of maybe an hour or two. And at the end here, what we hear is the Oblivion sampler that was in the chorus, but this time a bit more filtered. So let's listen to the difference between the Oblivion sampler from the chorus and the Oblivion sampler at the end. So this is a quick way to get contrast and dynamics between parts just by filtering one instrument. So you can see here the filter is activated, the EQ is activated, some more reverb, some more delay, and the distortion setting is different. So instead of using gently low at 75% here, we're using it at 45% or so. So it creates a cool difference in sound, and it's the same exact part. I could have started on a very different tangent for the song if I wanted to, just by changing the tempo of the track and by changing the riff on the keyboard here. So for example, let's switch it to 100 BPM. And here, instead of the note right there, I'm gonna switch it to here, and we're gonna have a completely different feel already. So you can see how easy it is to get started in creating new parts, new music, and we really haven't been digging deep in the sampler. We can simply change presets here, but then when you're getting started, you have a bunch of different options. You have clean guitars, and you can simply go in the designer and change the start point of that loop or change the tuning if you feel like, and it's gonna give you a whole different tangent. There's also a bunch of killer effects built in the sampler right here. Let's listen to how it would sound on a clean guitar tone. So after you picked your favorite loop here, you can simply go in the macro section and activate here the sound to create even more movement. And finally, in the master effects section, this is where you can add delays, reverb, chorus, and there's a bunch of different things you can do. There's also the twist button, which can add crazy cool modulation sounds. Next to each preset, you also have the tempo at which it was recorded. So make sure that your host tempo is close to that one. So it's really gonna match in terms of dynamics and in terms of intention for that specific riff. If you found value in this video, smash that like button, drop a comment below, share with your friends. And if you want to know more about how Heavyocity's virtual instruments can take your productions to the next level, check out this video, which talks all about it. Hoping to see you there.